wow, wow, wow. This has to be the most upsets in college football history in one weekend. Top ranked school after top ranked school went down in surprisingly fashion against teams that shouldn't even be competing with them. Let's go ahead and take a look. And here we are, my savages. Ridiculous, man. The weekend of college football was crazy, man. You had last week Alabama, this the big one. Alabama beating Georgia, the number one team. Alabama ranked number 4. You having Alabama beat Georgia, and then this weekend lose to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt team that has not beaten a top ranked team ever. 0 and 60. 0 and 60. 6-0. I know I'm country. They haven't beat Alabama in 40 years. I'm not even 40 years old. They haven't beat Alabama in 40 years. Think about that, man. They gonna tell their kids and tell their grandkids, and their kids gonna tell their grandkids that they grandpa and they great grandpa was on Vanderbilt that beat Alabama for the first time in 40 years and the first time ever beating a ranked team out of 60 tries. Think about that. Think about that, Jalen Milroe. Think about that, Ryan Williams. Think about that, Alabama whole defense, because you wasn't nowhere to be found. Think about that. Let's go ahead and get into it, man. Like I said, man, Texas, everybody knew Texas was going to go back to number 1. We already knew it, man. After Alabama beat Georgia, then Alabama lose to Vanderbilt. Texas just sitting on the sideline. Texas ain't had to do nothing. Y'all moved us out the number 1 spot, and we still won. And then Georgia lose, put Alabama number 1, jumping us. Then Alabama lose, and then we back to number 1. Ohio State, number 2. Say they moved up the spot they was number 3. Oregon, number 3. Now, me personally, even though they undefeated, I understand why they number 3. But they have been having some close games early. And Penn State jump up there in the top 5, bro. Penn State 5-0. Georgia staying at number 5. And I understood why they went to number 5 after they lost to Alabama, man. Because Alabama was ranked number 4, they was number 1. It ain't like they lost to Vanderbilt. It ain't like they lost to Vanderbilt. Commodores. It ain't like they lost to them. So I understood why they would still be in the top 5, even though I thought they would have failed at least to 6, because Miami was still undefeated. But you see, they got Miami at number 6 now. Even though this poll, I think it is right, but I could have seen Miami being number 5 just because they still undefeated and they 6-0. Even though, like I said, Georgia competition of Alabama is the reason why they stand number 5. But I would like to see Miami at number 5, Georgia number 6, just because they undefeated. You know what I'm saying? Have all the undefeated teams in the top 5. Now we move down to 7, to Alabama. Now, me personally, I thought Alabama was going to be 8, 9, or 10 because of the magnitude of what went along with the history. Just not the game, but how they played and the history that was behind what was going on with Vanderbilt. I'm thinking Alabama should be 8, 9, or 10. That's just my opinion. But the reason why I could see why they number 7 is because Tennessee. Tennessee lost 2. They was the number 4 team and lost to Arkansas. So, yeah, I could see why they put Alabama 7, even though I would have still put maybe Alabama 7, 8, or 9 and had Tennessee 9, 10, 11. One of those. Then you got Ole Miss. They lost the week before. But they at number 9. And then Clemson, 10. They lost to Georgia the first game. So they moved up 5 spots. They number 10 spot. Ole Miss moved up 3 spots. Iowa State, maybe the biggest surprise off of this whole list is Iowa State. That might be the biggest surprise out of the top 25. Just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Leave a comment down below what you think your biggest surprise in the top 25 is. I'm just going one by one. So number 11, Iowa State. Well, we got number 11, Notre Dame tied with Iowa State at number 11. They moved up 3 spots where they win. Now, they lost a couple weeks ago. There was an upset, too. So, it seems like all the top schools are getting upset by smaller schools that's not competing on the NIL level. But maybe they getting certain players here or there. They got their grit. They paying them the NIL money they weren't getting at the big school. I'm going to go to Northern Illinois because they paying me way more than Georgia would. Because I'm going to be third string anyway. I might as well take my talents to Northern Illinois and start and get a check. And we going to beat Notre Dame on the same hand. You get what I'm saying? 13, LSU. They lost 1. Now, this ain't the... I don't know. They not playing... To me, they not playing that good. But I ain't really no LSU fan. But my girl is, you know what I'm saying? But she don't watch the games anyway. But, you know what I'm saying? I think this one is just because you in the SEC. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. BYU 5-0. They moved up 3 spots. Texas A&M moved up 10. Maybe they moved up 10 because they lost early too. But because of what's going on in the SEC right now, you have only what? Texas, one of the only undefeated teams left, or the only undefeated team in the SEC now. I can see why Texas A&M could jump up 10 spots. Then Utah 4-1, they moved up 2 spots to number 16. 17, Boise, they lost 1. They moved up 4 spots, but they got a Heisman candidate and they running back. Kansas State lost. They moved up 2 spots to 18. Me personally, I'm thinking they should have been out of the top 25, but hey, it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? Because just for instance, who they playing next is Colorado. If Colorado would have lost, they would have, even though they did jump in top 25 last year, 22, then they lost 1 game and they got out. And we know how that season went. Indiana 6-0, moved 5 spots up. The head coach at Indiana said, "All I do is win. All I do is win." DJ Khaled. So get what he doing in the Big Ten, 6-0. Now they got Nebraska next. Might need to take a look at their schedule in a minute. Oklahoma 4-1. They moved up 1 spot. They in the SEC, got to play Texas. That's an L for them. Missouri 4-1. Moved down 12 spots with they L. They should have lost against Vanderbilt first. They should have lost against Vanderbilt first. Not Alabama, but Missouri. Then Pittsburgh 5-0 in the ACC. They got to play California. Illinois 4-1. They moved up 1 spot. And then Michigan. Michigan down 14 spots. They 4-2, but they should have been out of the top 25. But the coach, I don't know. I can't remember if he signed a contract or not. But he basically coaching for free. He was coaching for free. I think they signed a contract though. But you get him the leftovers after the National Championship, even though you got 1 decent player left, Edwards in the corner. But it ain't the same feel, chemistry-wise, because, you know, your quarterback gone, your head coach that was leading the ship gone for all them years. New regime, got to get used to it. What everybody was expecting, not that big of a drop-off, but as a drop-off. And then SMU done squeaked in the top 25 with a 5-1 record. Now, like I said, my biggest surprise on this is Iowa State. Iowa State, Indiana, and maybe SMU. And they having Miami behind Georgia, but I understand why they did it. But Indiana, man, they 6-0, 3-0 in the conference. They got Nebraska up next. They're probably going to be one of their biggest tests of the season right now, man. being 6-0, going against Nebraska defense, and the new 5-star quarterback, you got to make a statement. You got to make a statement. This got to be a statement. Well, got the ugly helmet, bro. This got to be a statement game. Because if you are actually legit, people going to want to see that, you know, you can beat tough teams, even though Nebraska ain't even in the top 25 no more. You know what I'm saying? This just my opinion, because I know football, man. You know what I'm saying? So Iowa State got West Virginia next. Should be another dub. Same thing. If they legit, then they legit. You know what I'm saying? You should win against the easy teams that they consider easy, that you got a large point spread against. And the tougher teams, you should also beat them, but it should be to the point to where it's convincingly. Big word. Convincingly. Big word. Get what I'm saying? If you are who you say you are. Now, all these other teams that we already expected, Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Georgia, Miami, because they got Cam Ward, Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss, all those type teams right there, you expect them to dominate against a Vanderbilt or Georgia State. How do you lose Alabama? Ask me this. How do you lose the Vanderbilt that lost to Georgia State? And Vanderbilt, how do you lose to Georgia State and beat Alabama? That means you played down to your competition when you played Georgia State. And then Alabama played down to your level when they played you. It allowed you to beat them and Georgia State to beat you. So that means Georgia State can beat Alabama. Boom. Right there. All right, now let's take a look at these schedules, man. What the top teams in the SEC? We just looking at the SEC, and we're going to look at Ohio State, Iowa State, and Indiana real quick. But the race for the SEC championship been started, but it gets a little dicier now. So Texas, the number one team in the nation, man, they got the best chance right now to submit that they belong in the SEC after their first year in the SEC by going to the SEC championship and possibly winning the whole thing. Oklahoma is next. Then they got Georgia. 2 ranked teams right here back to back. But the biggest test would be Georgia, because I think they can beat Oklahoma easy. But Georgia, Texas versus Georgia, man, that's going to be like the second biggest game of the year after Alabama and Georgia. Texas versus Georgia probably going to be the biggest game of the year. Then, like I called it, where Alabama got caught in a trap game against Vanderbilt, even though Vanderbilt, I don't think they can keep that momentum. But I'm not in their locker room. I'm not them coaches. I'm not them players, and they ain't my teammates. Anything can happen. But you can get into a trap game saying that Vanderbilt easy, Florida easy. You could possibly lose either one of those games if you sleeping like Alabama. But I don't think Texas is going to take Vanderbilt lightly just because of what happened to Alabama. And then Arkansas. I know everybody think Arkansas just did it. Nah, bro. They got a quarterback I like. They could really make some noise against Texas, possibly. And then you got Kentucky and Texas A&M to round it out. So right now, on this schedule for Texas that's left, Georgia probably going to be your biggest test. And then Texas A&M going to be your last test, and possibly the potential game to put you in the SEC championship depending on what you do against Georgia. Because Georgia going to have to play. And that's the next team we going on right now, bro. Go Dogs. Georgia going to have to play, bro. Because now you don't put yourself in the bind with losing to Alabama You got Mississippi State next. She'll be a dub. Then you got the number 1 team, Texas, coming up. Then you might have another trap game versus Florida. Even though Florida ain't been good the past couple years, but you could easily let your guard down and lose like Alabama did. Now, if you definitely lose against Florida, you're definitely out. But for Georgia to even possibly get in the SEC championship, they have to beat Texas, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. You got 3 top 10 teams left on your schedule. 3. All in the SEC. And you got to take care of business against each and last one. Now, if you lose against Texas, it's probably a possibility that you still make the college football playoffs. But SEC, probably out of the question. But if Texas lose, they could still possibly get in the SEC championship. But since you already lost to Alabama, hey, you can't be a 3-loss team in the SEC. You're not gonna do it. If Georgia lose against Texas, that's dropping them out of the top 12. That's dropping them out of the top 12, hands down. Then you got to fight your way and claw your back up, because then you got to beat Florida, Ole Miss, Tennessee. I ain't worried about the last 2. You gonna handle them easy. But hey, it is what it is. Now let's move on to Bama. Bama took their L, bro. They got South Carolina, Tennessee, Missouri, LSU, Oklahoma, and Auburn. Good luck. If you don't lose against Vanderbilt, then you got better chances. South Carolina scary. Tennessee definitely scary. You could lose. Missouri iffy. LSU scary. Oklahoma iffy. Auburn, they always gonna play Alabama hard, so it don't even matter. That's a toss-up game. You just say that's a toss-up game. But it all depends on what you do against South Carolina, Tennessee, Missouri, and LSU. If Bama lose any one of them games, mainly Tennessee, if they lose that game, they out. They out of the college football playoffs. They ain't out of the SEC championship game. They out of the college football playoffs. And then we're going to be questioning the coaching hire, because Nick Saban just left. He left you with a team that just won the SEC championship. It ain't like they were scrubs. So if you can't get in the college football playoffs, let alone the SEC championship, it's over. Bruh, headline's going to be get rid of him, fire him, Saban come back. It's going to be all of that. I tell you, boy. Tennessee, they got Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Georgia, UTEP, Vanderbilt. They schedule a little bit more favorable, but you got to beat Florida and you got to beat Alabama, because you just lost to Arkansas. You really got to win out. Tennessee and Alabama in the same boat. Tennessee and Alabama in the same boat. Then we got Iowa State. What can they do to keep their momentum going as far as making it to the college football playoffs and getting in there? And possibly jumping in the top 5. Possibly. They got West Virginia, UCF, Texas Tech, Kansas, Cincinnati, Utah, Kansas State. They in the Big 12. And we already know. They don't play Colorado. Colorado in the Big 12 too. Y'all already know my channel about Colorado, man. So the games they probably going to have to potentially have to fight would be UFC, Texas Tech, Kansas. Utah and Kansas State, you're going to have to win those games. You're going to have to. But like I said, the teams that you are supposed to beat, you should beat them. The teams that you're not supposed to beat but compete with, you have to beat them to make sure They understand that you are here to stay. Iowa State. Indiana, same thing. They got Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, Purdue. They got a more favorable schedule as far as they only play 2 top ranked teams, but Michigan struggling, Nebraska iffy, Washington iffy. They could lose these next 2 games. Nebraska and Washington, they definitely could lose these games. Michigan State a dub. Michigan, I chalk it up as a dub right now, and you definitely ain't beating Ohio State. But if you for real, you're going to beat Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Purdue. You're going to go undefeated. But Ohio State going to be the real test. Nebraska and Washington could be trap games. But you riding on that energy and high because you 6-0. So we'll see. You know what I'm saying? Them just my prediction, man. I ain't, it is what it is. You can like, subscribe, and share. Tell your friend about that Moneymane. You already know. But we're going to start taking a look at this every week, man. I should have been doing it, but it is what it is. So leave a comment down below. Tell me how you like it.